Greetings and welcome to my channel, which I started to introduce you to short pieces that are in the public domain from my favorite genres and hopefully yours as well. I am always on the lookout for literature, both fiction and nonfiction, that's scary, magical, mystical, or just plain weird. And when I use the word weird, I mean that in the best possible way. I like to wander in the public domain because it includes a multitude of works that are easily accessible, often for free, and can generally be used and shared without having to obtain permission from copyright holders. Before I go any further, I want to clarify that all of the works I read on this channel are in the public domain in the United States, because that's where I'm based. And while I would be thrilled if one of my videos were to inspire you to explore the public domain for yourself, I want to emphasize that before you decide to share or adapt any work of art or literature, please check on whether that work is in the public domain in your country, as each country has different copyright durations and regulations. And on that note, let's dive into the piece I'm reading today. According to Tellers of Weird Tales, it's the first nonfiction piece with a byline that appeared in Weird Tales magazine, specifically in April of 1923. It's called A Photographic Phantasm and was written by Paul Crumpler, MD, who was reportedly born in 1883 and died in 1965 at the age of 82. In addition to practicing medicine, Tellers of Weird Tales informs us that Crumpler served as coroner in Sampson County, North Carolina. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to find much more information on Crumpler in the sense of any other writing he may have done. Although for what it's worth, a number of genealogy sites came up when I searched for his name online. However, I liked A Photographic Phantasm for a few reasons. I used to do a podcast on Victorian-era cultural history called The Victorian Variety Show, and even though this piece appeared a few decades after the Victorian period ended, it reminded me of spirit photography, which is a topic I came across rather often when doing research for my podcast. I actually was hoping to do a podcast episode on spirit photography at some point, but I never got the chance, although I did do one on Victorian postmortem photography. But also, even though we mostly associate Weird Tales and other pulp magazines with fiction, there's a lot of great weird nonfiction writing out there. And in addition to Charles Fort, some of whose work is in the public domain and whose name is often associated with paranormal and unexplained phenomena, you may have heard of Forteana or Fortean phenomena. I think you can make a case that there's a continuum that includes Crumpler's piece, and it would seem other nonfiction from Weird Tales, that extends to more contemporary nonfiction writers such as John Keel, Jacques Vallée, Lauren Coleman, Joshua Cutchin, and many others who've covered UFOs, cryptids, ghost hunting, and other topics of high strangeness. But enough about what I think. Here's my reading of A Photographic Phantasm, to which I will leave a link in the description, along with the other sources that I used in putting this episode together. I have always believed that there is a simple and natural explanation for all seemingly supernatural happenings, but I recently had occasion to question this belief. I cannot doubt my own personal knowledge, nor can I deny what my own eyes have seen. Therefore, I cannot dismiss it as a figment of imagination. The facts are as follows. There is a rural section near me into which I frequently make visits in the practice of my profession as a physician. The people are a quaint, simple, and kindly sort, honest, unsophisticated. I was called not long ago to see a little girl in this neighborhood and found her very ill and with a poor chance for recovery. She was the younger of two children of a very intelligent farmer and his wife, the latter, however, having a rather nervous temperament. I had treated the woman before the little girl was born, and although she, too, was above the average in intelligence in her neighborhood, she was a person who would be classed medically as a neurasthenic, Realizing the seriousness of her child's sickness, she was becoming very nervous, so much so that I found it necessary to leave her some sedatives. She was worrying a great deal because she did not have a picture of the little girl. It seemed that the family had planned on several occasions to have a group picture made in the village, but each time something had prevented their doing so. This, she informed me, was preying on her mind and accentuating her grief. The child died, and I heard nothing more from the family until about 2 months later. This time, my call was to the mother. I found her in a state of hysteria bordering almost on insanity. She was holding a number of photographs to her breast and alternately laughing and crying. It was impossible to get any coherency into her actions. Her husband, however, told me that just before he sent for me, the rural mail carrier had delivered the photographs which had been taken of himself, his wife, and the remaining little girl about 6 weeks after the death of their child. After much persuasion, we were able to get the photographs from her, and after glancing at them, we saw the cause of her hysteria. The dead child was photographed in the group almost as plainly as the others. She was sitting on her mother's lap, and on her feet were the little white shoes which had been bought after her death to satisfy the mother, who did not want to bury the child in the old and ragged pair which were all she had. She was dressed exactly as when she was buried, wearing the dress that the mother had made for her to wear when the family group was to be photographed. Did this phenomenon happen by mental telepathy from the mother to the camera? The mother had grieved unusually, and her mind was entirely filled with thoughts of her child. If the explanation is not to be had from this line of reasoning, I am unable to solve it. The picture is there, and also the photographer to verify the truth of this. The picture shows the two children and the mother and father. The photographer is ready to swear that only one child was visible to his eye when he made the negative. The end. Once again, that was Paul Crumpler's A Photographic Phantasm, which appeared in Volume 1, Number 2 of Weird Tales magazine and is in the public domain in the US. Unfortunately, there was no photo accompanying the written piece, so we can't get to see that photo for ourselves. However, you might have noticed that I did include some examples of spirit photography, and even though I don't feel it's my place to verify or debunk their authenticity, I thought they would be fun visuals to include. I would love to hear what you think, either on whether you think the photo Dr. Crumpler was looking at was real or doctored, pun intended, or your thoughts on spirit photography in general, or on whether there are any weird nonfiction writers or literature you enjoy. Please like this video and leave me a comment, because those will really help my channel grow. And if you'd like to hear readings of more weird literature in the public domain in the future, please consider subscribing so you can receive a notification next time I post. And until then, keep reading. The weirder, the better.